Hello, my name is Shannon, and I felt drawn to make this video in attempts to appeal to the public, a specific group within the public, in hopes that the contents of this video will help move your heart into doing what we all need to do. This video is for everyone, and I don't want to be so bold as to speak for everyone. I can't do that. I speak for myself, for others like me, and for those who cannot speak for themselves. I was one of those people who couldn't speak for myself. This video is meant to be heard by everyone. And in my intent in this video is to send this message to specific groups of people, those who are in the public sector, the medical field, the medical personnel. You don't know me. However, I've used your services. We all do. We all are born into this world needing medical attention. I certainly was. I was born as a premature baby with underdeveloped lungs in the early 1970s. So you can just imagine how primitive medical procedures were back then. Doctors struggled to keep me alive as I was born at the gestation month of 7 months. I was born with obviously underdeveloped lungs, and I also had a hernia in my groin. I am told that I had a blood transfusion, and those doctors who helped save me, they are my heroes. I will never know their names. I will never recognize their faces. I will only see the scar on my body as a reminder, and I was meant to be here. You see people like me every single day. We come into your office for medical treatment, as this is obvious. We are in desperate need of your services because for some of us, we really are dying. And some of us, it feels as if we are dying. We are desperate for your help. We need you. We've always needed you. We still need you. We need you still. We need you now. I am speaking to the doctors, the nurses, the medical practitioners, you who have a high responsibility in life to keeping us alive. You hold a high honor. You know this. You hold our lives in your hands. Now, I know you're not God, but I do know you do your best. I know you are experts in your field, and yet I also know that you chose to do what you do as this was your calling, your gift to this world, to help make this world a better place with healthy people in it. Many people expect you to be God, as they expect you to know all there is to know about the human body and fix what is broken, put us back together whole. I know the pressures. I don't know the pressures on you. However, I know that you can only do what you can do. You do your best. And at the end of the day, fate always steps in. But why did a baby die and yet I am alive? Well, you can't answer that question, neither can I. I can only say that with doctors like you, I have learned to not take my life for granted. Because of my underdeveloped lungs, I developed asthma. My grandfather developed emphysema from working in the coal mines, and I don't know if that has any bearing on my illness. All I know is that my lungs are very susceptible, and as I saw his struggle to breathe, I understood because I too lived it. Asthma is not an illness that anyone should want to live with. I remember going to sleep safe in my bed, comfortable, happy, and suddenly waking up in the middle of the night, feeling like I was suffocating, but the blankets were on the floor. As I was struggling in my bed to breathe. Now, you as doctors know the symptoms, and you witness this probably daily. But unless you experience this, you will not know the desperation that follows the struggle to live. There is literally no air to breathe. Your bronchial tubes are so small, it's as if specks of dust are blocking the airways that leads to every single alveoli. And you have no choice but to fight to breathe or succumb to the lack of oxygen and potentially die. That's your fate in asthma. That's your fate. I remember being in an oxygen tent at such an early age. I remember coughing at school as the circulated air in those school buildings were suffocating. I developed a dry cough, an incessant tickle in my throat, and because I was coughing and hacking so much, that my classmates, they kind of looked at me strange, like I was contagious. Yeah, so I know isolation and I know the fear of death. COVID doesn't scare me. I refuse to take the vaccine because I know what it's like to die. And because I know my faith in God saves me. I remember having a specialist in the 80s, and his name was Dr. Freegang. Oh, he was a hard man, but a kind gentleman, a man who didn't push medicines, but prescribed a holistic, helpful measures instead. And I recognize now that he was only hard to me because he cared. He cared about the health and well-being of his patients. I mean, he treated me like his own child, scolding me. When my parents would bring me into his office and he'd ask me about my symptoms of asthma, and he's like, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this? And he's like, throws his hand down on the table, and he's like, what is wrong with you? Why are you not helping yourself? His ways have always stuck with me because he's one out of the many doctors who really showed that they cared for their patients, and for that I'm grateful, because doctors don't always understand that we are relying on you guys to help us, to educate us, to teach us, to nurture us, to give us valid information that we don't know. I know we expect a lot out of you. Dr. Freegang, he taught me how to use the inhaler correctly. He told me when to use it, and only as a last resort. I was never supposed to self-medicate with it. He told my parents healthy ways to develop my lungs, to make them stronger, to alleviate the symptoms of asthma. One of those things was for my parents to stop smoking, which they never did. The other was to get me into swimming. I was always in the pool, every chance I got. He told me that swimming would develop my lungs, and that is what I needed to hear. I wanted asthma gone. With asthma gone, that meant no more sucking air through a blocked straw, as those asthma attacks were debilitating and scary. They are made out of your worst nightmares. No one knows what death is until they are faced with it over and over and over and over again. Swimming became something that it was all that I wanted to do. I began competing in relays. I joined the synchronistic team. I even went for my lifeguard badges and overcame my fear of heights. Well, kind of. I learned how to even snorkel. I wanted to be in the water 24/7 because that's where I could breathe. What stopped me was the chlorine. It burned my eyes and my skin. And the chlorine made my eyesight worse. I know, wear goggles, but when you're a swimmer, you just want to be free. And you're a kid, parents can't teach kids anything, right? I would come home after swimming most of the afternoon on Sundays, and I would develop a rash, a burn on my upper lip and my cheeks and my shoulders and the top of my legs. it was like a diaper rash, and my skin would turn into hard sandpaper. It would be so uncomfortable that I could hardly sleep at night. When I stopped swimming, my lungs were much better and the attacks were less frequent. But I still faced death in another way, through childbearing. Bleeding out due to complications is difficult to describe. It's something different. In these situations, you cannot fight for your life. You cannot move around because as the blood quickly pools out of your body, so does your life force. You become tired and lethargic, not noticing the pain anymore. And everything becomes black and silent. And then you're just gone. I have had 2 pregnancies where I have had complications. When I gave birth to my twins, pieces of the placenta were still attached, which caused an infection. Medication that I took as a last resort didn't work. Do you know how embarrassing it is to walk into a public restroom, to use the restroom, and you pull your pants down, to have a faucet of blood rushing out and spilling into the toilet and all over the floor? Yeah, that was me. I'm not exaggerating. I pulled my pants back up and I walked out of the restroom to the table where I told my partner at the time, "We need to go to the hospital now." And he just asked why. I told him to look at me, really look. And I was obviously holding back tears as my newborns were there with us, and so was my 14-month-old son. I did not want to bring attention to myself and alert anyone. My blood-stained shoe prints did that for me, if anyone noticed. My partner looked and saw that I was wearing red pants, and my red-colored pants were darkening quickly. My pants were soaking up the blood as the blood oozed down to my knees. At the hospital, they treated me as if this was common. I had a D&C, and I was fine after that. This is until I gave birth to my youngest daughter 20 years ago. She came so quickly, and I hemorrhaged. I lost so much blood, and because of that, I was scheduled for a blood transfusion the next day. But because I was sitting up and nursing my daughter, the doctor canceled that blood transfusion. My daughter is who saved me. She gave me the will to live. Oh, the nurses, they tried to get the doctor as I was delivering my baby, but the doctor was helping another mother. The hospital was understaffed, and 3 nurses and a doula helped to save my life that night. They administered an injection into my thigh to stop the bleeding. This was against my authority. I could barely even speak. I was losing blood quickly, and I was extremely weak. I didn't even want to talk. I began to fade as I began to black out. And yet I fought in my mind so hard in my resolve to not lose consciousness. Well, the nurse told me I did. And I said no, I didn't, because I repeated everything back to her that I heard in conversation. I'm sharing this with you to appeal to your better nature. Some of us are born with the will to live. And because of that will, I have made it my life's mission to help others to help find their will to live also. I help others who are struggling in life. I'm a source for them, or I hope I'm a source for them that they can vent to and find hope and peace and courage to fight. I help others who are struggling with suicide as I have invested my time into suicide intervention and prevention. And this is why I'm making this video, to implore to you. This video isn't about me. I'm just sharing my story with you to help you see that I get it. You deal from a perspective of death that nobody can understand. while we endure your patients, while we, your patients, endure a perspective of death that you may never understand. This video isn't about me, it's not about you, it's about us. It's about humanity. And I'm hoping this video will help you to see that we still need you. You as a doctor have an obligation to try your best to help people stay alive. Medical care does not always mean medicinal treatment. You know this. As you are also an ear to those of us who do not have anyone to talk to, I can tell you that I've been given some of the best life advice in my failing relationship from a family doctor. I have been offered the most sage and holistic advice from many doctors. You all have such loving qualities, and I know you want the best for those who are entrusted to your care. That's why I can't figure this out. With the regulations of convincing the public to take something that was only approved as experimental, I'm not here to judge. And personally, I'm really past the point of being mad. I was mad, not at you, but just at the situation. And being angry doesn't do us any good. It doesn't solve the issue. I want to help solve the issue. I want us to work together to help solve this growing problem that we have. Death is the disease. And I'm wanting to appeal to your better nature in hopes that we can start working together, because something is really, really, really wrong. It's hurting us all as a collective. We're all in this together. We're all suffering in our own way together. No one should be left behind. No one. Is there any way that you can help other than administering experimental treatments that are causing more harm than good? You know the public is not aware of and not given access to medical databases that you have access to in your hospitals that show the growing numbers of inoculation injury. Can you help me? Can you help us understand why, as a person in your position feels that it is the only way to promote something that is harmful to others? Surely you don't buy into that 3 people with side effects is better than having 50 people with side effects. You know the factual numbers. We don't. And because we're not given the factual numbers, people are making decisions that are harmful to them. I know this isn't what you signed up for. I know that. I can't believe it is. My humanity and trust and belief in you as a doctor won't allow me to believe that this is what you signed up for. Doctors like you help to save me. Doctors like you have helped to save so many people. You help bring children into this world. You help nurse patients back to health so that they can go home to their families. Why now? Why stop now? Why rip these families apart with these toxic injections that we, the public, and maybe you know nothing about? I don't hold anything against you. I understand your job is on the line. I understand the risks that you face for not doing what you are told to do. I'm just asking you to remember why it is you got into the profession that you did. To help save people. One death is one death too many. I'm not a doctor, but my humanity tells me this. I don't hold what is going on against you. I really don't. I'm past being mad and judgmental. I want this problem fixed, like many of us do. We can't do this on our own. We don't have the medical capabilities. We don't have access to the information like you do. you're just as much as a victim as I am, and I'm not meaning that to be insulting. It is just what it is. When we stand together, we are one voice strong. When we stand together and fight against whatever reason that is, we are standing together for each other and for the future generations. We are standing up for who we are. We stand for life, love, and liberty. And when we stand together, they can't win. Death can't hurt us. Okay, so maybe our jobs are taken away and our livelihood is, we suffer without for a little bit. But what's a little bit of suffering? I would rather suffer with not having food in my stomach for a little while than to watch people suffer horrifically and lose their freedoms to live in health. As now most people are bound in medical chains. And I know those medical chains because I lived with asthma for most of my life. It is not fun to be bound in your illness and have your illness dictate to you your comings and goings and what you can and cannot do. People who are healthy, who had life at their feet, are now riddled to having barely any life at all, as they cannot do what they wanted to do in life. Their dreams are now gone. Their hopes for family and having children are shattered. For what? The flu? Heck, like I said, I still have asthma, but I do my best to keep myself protected and safe. So I haven't had an asthma attack in a very long time. I eat healthy. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't take any sort of drugs. My body is clean as I can consciously make it through the informed decisions that I make. But from what I'm hearing, I'm one of the best candidates to take a vaccine. And yet I'm not going to risk that because one asthma attack for me is one too many. I'm not going back there. I am not living my life in fear. I am not going to live my life being dictated to an illness and stop living because I won't be able to run because my lungs can't take it. I'm not going to live that way again. I know what it's like to almost die. And these people are dying and suffering, and they don't have to. I don't know the pressures that you're going through, just as much as you don't know the pressures that we, the public, are going through with this. This death pandemic is dividing us, and this is the time when we need each other the most. I'm asking you, please find a way to reverse the damage these injections are causing. Can you help? These people know what they are doing to us. They are the problem, not you, not me. The makers of these drugs that are making poison are forcing you to administer it to people. I don't hold that against you. I understand and I get it. We are past the point of being mad at each other and judgmental. I think it's time to come together and fix this and heal this mess. If our future generations are going to have a hope and a chance at having a family again, please, I beg of you, help us. Help me to help you. Help me to help others. Dying is scary. And these people are so young and they have their whole lives ahead of them. And now their lives are short-lived. For what? For what? I'm past the point of childbearing years. I'm starting to go through menopause here. And I'll tell you, that makes me sour, especially in this time now. Because of being a parent for Because being a parent in my young years, I took parenting for granted. And what I know now, I wish I knew then. This isn't about me. This isn't about you. This is about everyone. This is about future generations. And I can no longer have children. And that's the thing. It seems like the people who are refusing vaccines are the generation that knows. But the younger generations don't know, and they're being forced against their will. They're not able to make an informed decision because they're under their guardianship of their parents, and their parents are forcing them. And the government is feeding people information that isn't best for them to listen to. This to me looks like uninformed suicide. How does this happen? Really? How does this happen in life? How do we get to this point? It happens because, my dear doctors and practitioners, this mess did not begin with you, but it can end with you. And I am imploring you, tap into that love you have for humanity, for your children, for your families, your friends, and neighbors. Think back to a time when you first began your practice. Think back to how it felt when you helped to heal someone and you helped to save a life. The medical efforts you started out with were clean. They did not come with side effects. You relied on your education and your gut instinct. You tapped into your empathy. And when they left your office all happy and a sense of hope, you had a sense of pride knowing that you helped to make the world a better place. This is what made staying up all those nights working on those thesis papers and studying for medical exams so worth it. I'm not sure how we move forward, but I'm willing to listen to your story. I'm willing to hear what you have to say privately. If you are willing, please consider taking that leap of faith to do the right thing for all people, for humanity, because you know as well as I do, one death is one too many. We've lost too many already. I'm asking you to gather your research, collect research that is available to you that we don't have access to, and make it public. Or you can send it to me or someone who you trust that will get the word out. I need you to stand with us. I need you to stand with humanity and say no more poison. We want medicine, yes, but medicine that is biologically compatible with each and every single human being on this planet. No one should be left out. We are all in this together, rich, poor, weak, strong, young, old, educated, uneducated, able-bodied, unable-bodied. We have to be here for each other. This is what we were created for. To stand for and with each other. To stand in the gap. And this is probably why you became a health professional. To help stand in that call of duty where no one else would. You have a high responsibility in your profession alone, I get that. But we as human beings, we all have a responsibility that is unique to us and that is familiar to every single person on this planet. Please, please, will you stand with me? Will you stand with us as a collective and stand against the big PH billionaires that are funding this injecticide upon humanity? You as doctors and nurses and medical practitioners are somebody's hero. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be a fighter, as people like you gave me my life back. You showed me what it's like to live. And I want to say thank you. I can't say thank you to the doctors of my past, but I can say thank you to them through you. I want to say thank you for what you've already done and your service to humanity. You have made great sacrifices, I am sure. Let those sacrifices stand for something by standing with humanity, because your profession is now being used as a conduit for sacrificing humanity, and this has to stop today. With your help, I believe we can stop this. Will you help? We need you after this pandemic caused by this insecticide is over. We need you to help us get healthy and whole, as we need to find a way out of this. We cannot do this moving forward without you. Please consider helping, because we are all in this together. Thank you for your time and listening.